So after you've completed your first perspective practice or Nearpod, you're going to start working through how to draw a variety of shapes. So you're going to need to pay attention to the different types of corners and things like that that we're going to work through. So on my paper, I have 3 different types of shapes drawn, and I'm going to show you the things that you really need to pay attention to in the midst of this. So on things that might have an inside corner, you're going to need to make sure that you pay attention to where those converging lines need to go. So on this shape that we have right here, this like interesting polygon, we're going to work with our converging lines just as we would to each corner. Something that's a little different on this one though is see where that kind of corner comes into the shape in the middle between our first 2 converging lines. You're going to need to make sure that you draw a converging line right there because you're going to need to make a parallel line to each of those lines that create any type of an angle. So just kind of watch what I do on this one, and I think that'll help clarify how we do that. So you see there how I created that converging line, and now I'm going to work through making those parallel lines to each of those individual lines that make that angle. And that's going to help us see that really nice 3D shape in one point perspective. In this next shape that we do, it's going to be very similar. Just make sure that you're always paying attention to those corners. I just wanted you to see one more kind of funky shape before we really got started. Next, we're going to move on to our circle. So that's going to be a little bit more complicated one, so make sure that you pay very close attention once we start working towards that. So when I'm doing circles, what I like to do is I like to make sure that I have a good circle drawn first, and then I like to use the edges of my ruler to find where that converging line might run into the edge of my circle. So you'll see right there that it hit it pretty nicely, and it's probably good to go. So I'm going to use that to draw a converging line from each of those edges, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to swing it down on that converging line and see where it just basically kisses that edge real close. And once I get those converging lines, I'm going to need to figure out how to draw a parallel line. So this is curved. So whenever I'm creating a parallel line to a curved shape, I'm going to want to mirror that edge as best as I possibly can. So you might have to work with this a couple of times to get it nice and neat and in the right spot. And that's okay. You're going to have to practice a few times before you're able to get this, just kind of second nature. Once you get that where you want, make sure that the curve is nice, and you could basically extend that line into its own circle, and it would never cross with the first circle that we drew. So now you have a good cylinder, and you can erase those converging lines, and you're good to start practicing with a variety of shapes.